Cleveland is so lucky to have so many beautiful parks and natural areas close to and within the city. But many of those parks and natural areas have become crowded out by non-native invasive plant species. Things like honeysuckle and barberry and vinca are just some of the non-native plants that have been purposely or accidentally introduced to the landscape and crowd out our native wildflowers, trees, and degrade the overall quality of our natural parks. What exactly then are native plants, and how do we define what a native plant really is versus something that isn't? Well, it has something to do with the year 1800. This is a defining year for plants in Northeast Ohio. While there's many definitions of what's a native versus a non-native plant, the most useful one has been that plants that were here in Northeast Ohio in the wild before the year 1800 are considered native plants, and plants that were brought in by people after the year 1800 are considered non-native plants. Some of those non-native plants have escaped cultivation that can grow in the wild on their own, outcompeting native plants, and these are considered invasive species. Now, this isn't to say we can go back to the year 1800. That's not realistic. But after 1800, a lot of European colonists began arriving in Ohio, and they introduced a lot of non-native exotic plants, some of which became invasive. By reintroducing native plants, though, back into an urban landscape, we can bring back some of those lost ecosystem services, like stormwater filtration, neighborhood beautification, and pollinator habitat. Today, we're going to check out Meadow City Native Plant Nursery that sells native plants that you can buy and grow in your own backyard. Before we get started, though, go ahead and hit like and subscribe so that you never miss your dose of nature in the city. Let's see what's growing.
Meadow City is a native plant nursery. We're located in Cleveland's North Collinwood neighborhood, and all the plants we grow are native and found in the wild here in Northeast Ohio. It's for anyone who wants to add more life to their yard and attract birds and pollinators and other life. We realized that for restorationists and for homeowners, it's pretty difficult to source native plants, and we thought that would be a great way to help the restoration and native plant movement.
North American wildlife is struggling, and there's been significant declines in just a wide range of species. Since 1970, there's been a 29% decrease in bird abundance throughout North America. Just since the mid-1990s, there's been a 33% decrease in butterflies just in the state of Ohio. 26% of bumblebee species are at risk of extinction, and one of the main drivers of these declines is habitat loss. And with so much lawn in North America, 40 million acres of lawn in the US alone. If we just convert a fraction of that to native plant landscaping, we're in effect creating a tremendous amount of habitat, and that'll really benefit these species.
Lawn, from an ecological perspective, is just dead space, and there's so much more we could be doing with our yards to support birds and insects that are in decline. And it's also really rewarding to have a garden that is supporting other life. It's really entertaining and fun.
A lot of our moth and butterfly caterpillars, our native bees, they can only feed on a narrow set of plants, and oftentimes these plants need to be native. The native plants just meet their nutritional needs best.
At Meadow City, we grow what's called local ecotype native plants. That just means that the plants that we grow are directly descended from local wild populations. We don't buy the seed from, far away that might not be adapted to our local climate and soils. We get a lot of customers who just want to do something more eco-friendly in their yard, but they might not have a lot of gardening experience. And we have a lot of ideas about how to help people with this knowledge gap who might not want to spend a ton of time doing research, or to just prevent them from trying something and then having it not work. So we really want to provide a lot of support.
So here on our sales floor, you can see these are all flowers for your home garden, and we do have some shrubs, and everything's native to Northeast Ohio and actually grown from seed that we collect in the area. And to make it easy for folks to find plants that are going to do well in their yard, we have the plants organized according to growing conditions. So plants that tolerate wet conditions are here along our wet soils aisle. The plants that like it a bit drier are in the sun section, and then the plants that can handle shade, they're in the shade section. And we even have the plants organized by bloom time. So as you walk down the aisle, you encounter plants that bloom later and later in the growing season.
So yeah, this is Meadow City's newest planting area. This is about 1/3 of an acre that we've acquired, and we're going to be growing trees and shrubs primarily, but also experimenting with growing plugs in the future, maybe some slower growing spring ephemeral flowers. So let's walk through and I'll show you what we've got going now. So again, this year we've installed it. So we're just building it out as we go. And right here, what we're looking at is a variety of trees and shrubs that we've potted recently. So we've got some smaller plants here, and they start life in a tray, then they move into a little bit larger pot, and then finally we finish them up in a 3-gallon pot. That's a nice size because it starts to look like a tree or a shrub, but you can still fit it in your car and take it home. And it's a lot less expensive than buying a really tall, 2-inch ball and burlap tree. It's a more affordable option for people to get into native planting, and it helps us produce a lot more trees on a very small footprint that we've got here, so we can get more trees out into the landscape. This is a black gum here. It's a really pretty fall color, got a brilliant maroon, but we've got yellow birch, cottonwood, northern red oak. We start our plants in August that we sell in the spring, and that way when you come to get a plant next year, it's going to be in its 2nd year, it's going to have more flowers, and it's going to be really strong and robust. We start a lot of our plants in these 50-cell trays, and this is a size that one day we'd like to sell just as the whole tray, because you can plant this, since it's a pretty big plug, you can plant this right in the ground, and we're hoping to make kits so people don't have to do a lot of research. They can just buy a tray of plants that'll perform really well all together. We have a special structure that we use to start our nut trees, so our acorns, walnuts, hazelnuts, anything that the squirrels and the chipmunks really like to eat, we have to grow inside here. It's covered in a wire mesh, so they just cannot get inside. This is right here is kind of a pet project of mine. All of these little seedlings here are American hazelnuts, and this used to be a much more common species, but it's been in decline because of habitat loss. The habitat that it likes to grow in tends to be converted to agriculture. So there's not a whole lot of them left. And what I did is I ran around Northeast Ohio and I tried to find different populations, and planted them out here, and we've kind of kept the populations separate. And I'd like to take some of these plants from the different populations and put them, install them in different areas so that there's sort of a backup of the genetic diversity in case some of these populations, they get mowed or they get shaded out or just stop existing.
So this is our native seed production garden. At Meadow City, we grow local ecotype plants that are descended from local wild populations, and we collect our seeds in the wild, but we can't always collect as much seed as we need because we don't want to over-harvest the seed and impact the wild populations. So we've finally this year been able to start this garden, which is going to produce seed for use at the nursery. So these are going to be the seeds that grow our future plants. We've planted big patches of individual species. The reason we plant so many is not because we need so many seeds, but because we want to make sure we have genetic diversity. We don't want the plants to become inbred. We want to make sure that if they're hit with new threats like pests and pathogens, that there's some resistance in our populations. So we're always aiming to plant plants that are descended from at least 50 different wild parents. So this is just our first year of planting. Some of these plants were planted yesterday by volunteers and some were planted a little bit earlier. And we're hoping that next seed they'll produce a lot of seeds and allow us to grow lots more plants than we do already.
Once we do have, the attention of, a lot of Northeast Ohio residents and they're coming here, we want to be able to supply those plants without our inventory getting diminished. It's a part of a growing business that you just continue to improve in terms of supplying your product. And admittedly, the first couple years that we've had this nursery, we've sold out of a few species by mid-season, and then we replenish that stock later in the growing season. But we want to be able to supply those plants at a high level without getting sold out throughout the growing season.
So the only reason we're able to start a native plant nursery right in the city is because Cleveland has a lot of vacant land and a land bank with an urban agriculture program that allows us to, grow plants on site, to get our water from a fire hydrant for our first 5 years. So that's made it affordable. In any other city, I think it'd be impossible to find a big piece of land right in town.
You got to sell a lot of plants in order to financially support a group of folks like me, Alyssa, Julie, any seasonal helpers we have. We have an outstanding summer technician right now. So it's our success kind of hinges on the ability to keep things afloat. And I believe we can do it.
Now that you've learned a little bit about native plants and how you can get some, are you planning to plant some native plants in your yard? Let me know in those comments below. And be on the lookout for future videos where we'll have many more resources for you to buy native plants, or you can donate and volunteer some time to help support local conservation efforts to bring back the diverse array of wildflowers, trees, and shrubs that belong here in Cleveland and Northeast Ohio. From Cleveland, Ohio, my name is Alex, and I'm your CLE Urban Naturalist.